although you don't make some of these things public, meaning your investing world and let's say your personal brand public or together at the same time, I should say, what are some lessons that you've taken from the investing world that you've brought into, the branding deals, for example, that you were like, oh, okay, this is something that I can take from here. And although I won't show publicly, I can definitely use from a knowledge standpoint to be able to navigate the world.
Let me tell you, actually, I think P said this to me about a year ago. And the reality is when you have mentors and coaches that can help you in different spaces, even in a world where you're uncomfortable and that's not where your knowledge lies, take the opportunity and build the plane as you're flying. But that is my motto. And so I built out these relationships and networking over the course of several years. And I realized that the one person was right in front of me that I needed to get me in the rooms. And once I got my foot in, I was like, you're going to be my mentor. You don't know it, but you're going to be. And then I learned like how investors operate and how they work and how like they crowdfund and how like the same 10 people invested in PayPal and Instacart, in Uber Eats. It's literally the same people across the board. What it taught me was when you build relationships, make sure that those are the people that you continue to build with. So even with, I've taken that part of the investment. I'm also really good with contracts now. And I also have a great attorney team that helps. But I would have never gotten those attorneys if I didn't get in like a seat at the table. There's something to be said about like just listening and building those relationships. A lot of the brand deals that I've gotten were years of relationships and making it like really making it about the relationship and not having it be transactional is something that has helped. My intuition in investing has also helped the intuition and trusting my gut with like the things that I post and the brand deals that I make. I learned about contracts and how much I needed to understand what was in it from making that mistake with the first content deal that I did. So when I moved over to investing, I knew immediately I needed an attorney and somebody who knew what the heck they were looking at, because that was not when something is not your ministry, it would take me 8 hours to read one contract when I could just hand it over to somebody else who can look over it in 20 minutes and is an expert in that space. I also don't believe we get in our own way. That's reality. We as human beings are our own worst enemy. And we sometimes are so afraid of our worth or that we think we're not good enough. And we think that because I don't have the knowledge or my reels aren't good enough, or I'm not in tech, but I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm just not going to get into it. Those are the biggest mistakes that we make. When I made my first investment, I don't know anything about tech. You saw earlier, I barely know how to turn my Bluetooth on. But I hit it. But with that being said, I hit a unicorn on my first try. That doesn't happen if I don't leap. My first upper 5-figure deal that I made for Sara Lovestyle, I was scared to death. I had never made that kind of content in my life. But I said yes, and I figured it out. You find people who know what they're doing, you study them. It just do your research, do your due diligence. But I truly believe, like, even scared, jump. I'm going head first every single time. If my intuition is telling me that that's what I'm supposed to do, sometimes logic is not the best indicator of what you're supposed to do, because you'll talk yourself out of stuff every time.
Okay. So here's my question.
What are you going to give me?
So, what is one of the worst deals, whether it's you or somebody that you know or have helped out and things like that, that you've seen that a person went through? Like a brand came up to them, was like, we need this, and we're only going to give you this. Like, you don't have to say the exact amount, but I want people who are trying to be influencers or want to kind of get into that game, some of the things they got to really look out for. And just because a brand comes up to you, that's not always the greatest thing in the world. So, what was one of the worst deals you've experienced or seen happen?
Whoa, I have a lot of those stories. One came
I
across
figured.
a lot. One came across my desk this week for somebody else, and but I'll give you mine first. I didn't follow my intuition. I knew the deal was bad. I felt the pressure from everybody else telling me to do the deal, make the deal, make the deal, make the deal. I thought I read the contract. I thought I understood. It was a $16,000 mistake. That's how much it cost me to get out of that deal. 16 grand. I wanted to throw up. I still want to throw up. Read your contracts. Make sure that you understand what you're getting yourself into and what the brands are asking for. Same thing goes for investments. Make sure you actually know what you're getting yourself into. When it comes to influencing, I saw a deal recently where I understand where newer influencers are coming from, or even established influencers. I get it, especially because race and there's pay inequality. There's a lot of things that happen, and they are real. But do your darn research, because what happens is when one influencer makes a mistake, it affects all of us. An influencer made a mistake, charged it was stupid high, unnecessarily high. The brand was very put off, and that brand didn't hire another Black influencer for 5 years because they did not trust us. Then there was another deal this week that the person had about 20-something thousand followers. And the brand was like, wait a minute, we don't understand what this means. And why is this influencer asking for this much money? And the person just did not understand. They didn't understand how this works and the nature of the business. And it's disgusting. I had a brand come across my desk and said, hey, we'll pay you a couple $100 and we'll give you, this is this week. And we'll give you, and my name was spelled wrong, which pisses me off, to be honest. It's 4 letters. I need brand managers to get it together, please. And the way that the email was written was so unprofessional. It was very off-putting, and it was a brand that I liked and that I respected. But guess what? I'll never work with that brand. And the person in the email said, we want 4 pieces of content on your feed. They wanted 7 stories. They wanted a link in bio, and they wanted a post on my website. Yo, for a few $100 and what's good exposure? I cannot pay my bills for exposure. I don't need exposure. I cannot pay my mortgage with exposure. I cannot feed my children with exposure. I cannot buy shoes with exposure. Help me. You have to pay me. And then the person ended it with, and if you really want to show us some love, we'd like a reel too. I'm not your effing friend, bruh.